On the front line of the fight to reopen restaurants is a dear friend of mine, Senator Anthony Bucco, who joins us now. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, everyone. How are you?
Great. How are you doing on this snowy morning?
I'm great. Although I could do without the snow this morning.
Exactly.
Yes.
I think we've had our share for this year.
So, Senator, I was browsing Facebook as I normally do, and the first post I saw a couple mornings ago was a petition that you had posted to get the bars and restaurants open for the Super Bowl. And then lo and behold, not even 24 hours later came the announcement from Governor Murphy that he was easing the restrictions. When does that ever happen?
Well, look, we've had the pressure on for a while, trying to get these restaurants, excuse me, trying to get these restaurants open. And, finally, I think it's sunk through, especially with Super Bowl. The keeping the taverns closed, especially the bars and so forth closed at 10 o'clock on the day of the Super Bowl just made no sense. When you do that, people recognize that they're not going to be able to stay at the establishment they're at to watch the end of the game. So most likely they're not even going to go. They're going to stay home and they're going to have house parties where, now they'll be in an uncontrolled atmosphere. Whereas if you kept the bars open, at least the social distancing and protocols that are in place are there to protect folks. And it's better to have them there, actually, than in an uncontrolled house party. So it made sense for the Super Bowl and for other events to keep these establishments open. It also makes sense because the data now shows that these aren't the restaurants and the bars are not the cause of the spread. So, the governor always says, let's look at the data, make decisions on the data. I think it's time that we start looking at some of these restrictions and loosening them up, and then we'll see what the data shows. But I'm confident that it's going to show that we can do this and do it safely.
Yeah. Senator, what, we've been talking about restaurants and bars struggling since this all began. What have you heard from owners? What is it that they need to survive through this? I mean, I have several personal friends who own bars and restaurants, and more than anything, what I've heard from them is that they're looking for guidance. What do you need me to do that I can open this place and run my business? So what have you heard from them?
Well, I think first of all, they need to get a little bit more capacity, right? When they had the ability to entertain folks outside, that was one thing. They could increase the capacity by being outside. But now that option is no longer available to most, they have to be able to have a greater capacity inside. The protocols that are in place, they understand, the industry understands, they've patrolled themselves. Look, if you're a restaurant owner or a bar owner, the last thing you want is for your employees or your patrons to be sick. Because if they're sick, people aren't going to come back. So they're following the protocols they need to operate safely. So we have to give them the ability to open up a little bit more and have some additional folks into their restaurants to keep their wait staff employed and to keep them profitable. Just this week, just yesterday, I received an email that the Dublin pub in Morristown in my district was temporarily closing. Now, this is a long-term establishment that's been in Morristown for years. It's a landmark there. It has a clientele that's been there for years. And if they can't make it under these conditions, what about these small mom and pop places that are just started out? There's no hope. So we've seen these places close their doors forever, some temporarily, some forever. We need to make sure that they have the ability to stay open, keep people employed, so we're not putting more people on the unemployment line. God knows we already have a mess at the Department of Labor with trying to get people paid their unemployment benefits. So, this is part of a big picture, and I think we're moving in the right direction. I don't think we want to go fast, but I think we want to continue to move forward so that we can keep people employed and keep these establishments open.
Yeah. Laura, anything that you want to ask the senator?
Well, you bring up an interesting point, Senator, about having people in a controlled environment versus people having things at home? And does that have a bigger implication when it comes to a lot of institutions, from schools to what have you? Certain schools, cannot be in person. And when you're thinking about, when they're in school, they risk more exposure. But then when you look at, I see exactly where they are. I know, where they're walking now. They're following lines. So in some ways it can be a little bit easier when you're in that environment, but it's kind of that bigger philosophical question, almost to, people are going to drink, so you might as well do it at home in a controlled environment. Does that kind of argument kind of apply to other issues when it comes to reopening?
Well, I think we've got to look at the data, and if the data shows that we can do this safely, then we need to do it. We need to head in that direction. If we don't, we're going to have a problem. The economy can only last so far. There's only so many tax dollars that we can put forth, and only so much money that the state has and the federal government has to continue to support our economy. And, the longer we go with a shutdown to the extent that we have it, the harder it's going to be to recover. So, when the data shows that we can do this safely, we need to move in that direction. And that's what the data shows. Now more and more people are getting the vaccine. I know it's been a slow rollout and people are frustrated, but the fact is that at least here in Morris County, we're being able to get the vaccine administered. And as more and more people get vaccinated, again, the data will show that we can start to reopen. We can start to get back to a little bit of normalcy. And we have to do that. We have to make sure that we stay on top of this and that we continue to look at the restrictions and make adjustments where necessary, when appropriate.
Senator, thank you so much for joining us here this morning.
Thank you. It's been great. And good luck to you.
Thank you.